Ben.
Shalom, Jacob.
Shalom, Haver.
How
Mashma,
you doing? I'm good.
you good?
I'm good.
יכולים לדבר בעברית.
אם אתה רוצה, אין בעיה.
אין בעיה? יש בעיה. um, שהייתי בארץ, רק, um, רק בת דוד שלי, שהיא ארכיאולוגיה,
ארכיאולוגית.
גית, um, um, יכל להבין מה שאני אומר.
Why just her?
Because I would start putting words into like
English, Farsi, Hebrew.
binyanim that like
Mm.
are ancient binyanim, and like I would like I know rabbinic Hebrew, right?
Yeah.
So like I'm talking and like everybody else is like, why is he talking like thou dost?
Yeah, that's funny. That's what when I was like first came to the US, I feel like most of my English was like a lot more Russian literature packed, like because I read a lot of Dostoevsky, so that's where I got my English from. So
That's a good place to get your English from.
mhm.
Dostoevsky. I approve. I approve.
So instead of saying tea, I would say, "Do you want a samovar?" And I don't know what. I don't know. I'm trying to think what else, but yeah. Anyway, how was Pesach?
Pesach was beautiful. So did you go to Chabad for Mashiach Soda last night?
I did not go for the Mashiach Seudah, no.
Yeah, unfortunately, Mashiach Soda was pretty small last night, but
Yeah.
we went and Jack joined us. Max was there. Max Beck was there,
Mm-hmm.
and it was nice. I mean, the new Chabad house is opening up, and USC has been better than most of the universities in their stupidity of the stupid. Although obviously not perfect. UCLA. So the protesters at UCLA made the absolute mistake of not understanding that UCLA is Persian Jew central, and the Persian Jews have zero tolerance for pro Islamist student protests.
Yeah.
Like I'm like the Persian Jewish community is like having 1979
Yeah, like this is not.
flashbacks, and like and they're like, no, my uncle and my dad went to a counter protest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they're not the protesting type.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Got people involved, riled up.
Yeah. So at UCLA there was quite a counter protest. Although I didn't see so much reporting on that. But yeah, there was definitely more of a counter protest at UCLA than I believe anywhere else. But that's just because it's the Persian Jewish community, and you just
unless. Yeah, like at Columbia and places like that. I don't think there was like
the counter protest. No, I don't think there was a
there are much more.
Yeah, I don't think there were hundreds of people counter protesting
Mm-hmm.
at Columbia.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna start on Igeret HaKodesh.
Did you?
I did read that. Yeah,
You read that?
I did.
I'm reading it now.
It's pretty good. Ali Wiesel was an interesting guy. He used to come visit the Rebbe on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, interesting guy. Interesting guy.
Yeah, it's good. It's nice to hear about all
I want to read his book on Rashi because he also wrote a book on Rashi.
the biography.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it was, I mean, I read just his introduction to it, and it's kind of like, yeah, it was a biography of Rashi, but it's also kind of a love letter because so Elie Wiesel grew up in Hungary before World War II
Mm-hmm.
as a child, um, during early World War II, and so he he got that classic Jewish education in Cheder, where what you start with is Chumash Rashi,
Yeah.
right? So for him, Rashi was a childhood friend, you
Mm-hmm.
know, which I certainly didn't have that experience, but like, I mean, um,
Mine
imagine
was Kasuto.
who's Kasuto?
In Israel, for some reason, at least in the school that I was in, like I remember hearing about Kasuto a lot.
Who's
And
Kasuto?
then I found out about it. I think he's some commentator that his book was like the traditional like
I have
sec-
no idea who
I
this
might have not I might not be saying it.
Kahati.
Let me see. Moshe David Kasuto, maybe. Kasuto Torah. I think it's Moshe David Kasuto.
Umberto Casuto, also known as Moshe David Casuto, was an Italian historian, a rabbi, and a scholar of the Hebrew Bible and Ugaritic literature in the University of Florence and the University of Rome La Sapienza. When the 1938 anti Semitic Italian racial laws forced him from his position, he moved to the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. I mean, he seems like a nice enough guy. From 1922 to 1925, he was chief rabbi of Florence. Uh, yeah, he seems like the type of person that would be very prominent in a Zionist.
What makes a Zionist?
Because what makes it Zionist is like Hebrew University, like
Hebrew University. I don't know.
we get our Torah knowledge from a professor at a university who has a PhD from the University of
Well,
Florence.
it was a secular school, so
Yeah, Hashem Yerachem Aleinu. Yeah.
but that's what I remember, like Sefer Kasuto.
Okay. I mean, he seems like a nice. I'm sure he was a better man than I am. That's for sure.
I don't know. I don't remember the content. I just remember saying that.
I would be very very surprised if he was not a better man than I am.
Mhm.
So who am I to say anything? Rashi, he's not. I'll just put it that way.
Mhm.
Rashi, he's not.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, in a traditional Jewish school, you start Chumash Rashi. That's where
Mhm.
you start Chumash Rashi.
Yes.
At the young age of 22, I started with Chumash Rashi. So there you go.
There you go.
Um,
Better than me.
what, you started at 30 with Chumash
Something
Rashi?
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we are going to be starting the fourth section of Tanya, which is it's called Igeret Hakodesh, which isn't really the correct way. It should probably be called Igrot Kodesh.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it should be called because that's what we generally refer to as a collection of letters, igrot, oftentimes translated as epistles. And the difference between an epistle um, and just a letter is basically letters are mostly meant to be private, while epistles tend to be letters that you write to groups or that get shared around,
Right.
right? They're more public documents.
Mhm.
But they're written in the form of a letter, right? And oftentimes they have a um, a basic outline to them, like a letter does, right? Which here, I mean, this is a collection of letters by, and I think I've described this before. So what happened was when Tanya was first published, people started publishing it without the permission of the actual family of the Alter Rebbe. And so get in order to win out the publishing fights, what you would do is you would add things to your version, which made it more people want to buy it than other people's version.
Mhm.
And one of the best ways of doing that would be to put appendices in the back, which had things people wanted, which other people didn't have access to.
Yeah.
So, for example, um, this included letters which the family had, which people wanted to read.
It's a
So
pretty good strategy.
it was an excellent strategy. And to this day, I mean, I think I've mentioned it before, right? So when Satmar decided to print the Shulchan Aruch Harav, right, the Alter Rebbe's version of the Shulchan Aruch, because they didn't want to have to buy Chabad books, and there were certain other people who were like, "Hey, there's a Satmar version. We don't have to give money to Chabad anymore." I
Mhm.
won't mention who those people are. Yeshiva University. um, uh, what Chabad in turn did, I actually have one volume of it here, is they put out a new version of the Shulchan Aruch Harav. Now, usually, like you could print the entire Shulchan Aruch Harav into a volume this big, but this is with notes,
Mhm.
and so they put out a new version which was more. So this is just volume
Section.
bet,
Yeah.
second volume of, now I think they have 8 volumes out, and you could, I mean, usually the you can compare it, but like these types of wars still go on with things that are out of copyright.
Mhm.
um, and that is a large reason how Tanya ended up having all of these sections in it.
Yeah.
um, so Igeret HaKodesh, actually Igrot Kodesh, these are letters, a collection of letters. Some are longer, some are shorter. Um, okay, so this is the first letter. Do you want to start or should I start?
Whatever you want.
Let me start, just because we're going into a new format,
Mhm. Yeah.
right? Um, so potchen bebracha, right? And this is a normal thing when you write a letter. You potchen bebracha, mesayim bebracha. You start with brachot, you end with brachot, and the meaty stuff is in the middle, right?
Mhm.
Levarech ulehodot l'Hashem ki tov, right? To bless and thank God because He is good. Shmu'a tova sham'a v'tchi nafshi. I heard a beautiful thing and my soul rejoiced. Ein tov ela Torah, and there's no such thing as good other than that which has to do with the Torah, right? Like our sages say. Torat Hashem tamima, Meshivat nafesh is the rest of that verse, right? The law or Torah of God is perfect. It revives the soul. They put it there as well, right? So it's very normal in rabbinic writings
Mhm.
to include a few words that are obviously from a particular part in the Bible, and to kind of include whatever the surrounding meaning is there.
Yeah.
Right? Zo hashlamat kol hashas kulo berov ayarot minyanim ma'anshe shlomenu. Right? So Chabad has this custom of Chalukat Hashas, which is every congregation, I believe they do it at Yud Kislev, the 19th of the month of Kislev, but every congregation gets together, and there are officially 60 tractates of the Talmud. There's actually 63 um, so this word shas, right,
Mhm.
is shisha sidrei mishnah, or but it really refers to the entirety of the Talmud. And the Babylonian Talmud officially has 60 tractates. The fact is, there are 63 tractates, and some of the tractates don't actually have Talmud, and then there's the minor tractates, all of that.
Right.
But what you do is you get together with a bunch of your friends, and the people who are able to learn the harder parts learn the harder parts, and the
Mhm.
people who are able to learn the easier parts learn the easier parts. And there are nebuchs like me who always take a particular masechta that we once learned in yeshiva, like
Rosh
Rosh Hashanah.
Hashanah.
Yeah, and uh, I should do that again. I've never actually done a chalukat hashas, uh,
Mhm.
but and over the year, the entirety of the community together finishes the Talmud, finishes
So they
the
assign each other.
everybody asks, everybody takes, right, whatever tractate they can,
Yeah.
and among the congregation, and frankly, the rabbi ends up learning all the rest of it. Right? And then a few people fail to do their part, and the rabbi has to learn those as well.
Mhm.
Right? But and then at the end of the year, they make a communal siyum. Although apparently Chabad does not say the siyum Kaddish. They apparently only say it at a levaya, but there is a siyum Kaddish, which most communities make.
Right. The Talmud, the Rabbanan,
What?
the Rabbanan,
What do you
the
mean?
rabbi, like the Talmideon. The
Yeah, the well, I mean, there. Okay, so now, so
so well, is this
Kaddish,
that big tangent?
there are various forms of Kaddish
Mhm.
that, and you're thinking of it's sometimes called Kaddish Yatum, because the mourners oftentimes say that, um, which includes al harabanan, right? The Talmidei Hon,
Mhm.
right? The Askin Baraita Kadishta, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're thinking of. This is a special Kaddish, which is a little bit different. Here, let's pull it up on Safaria, just to pretend that we're good Jews. Let's see. They must have a siyum. Uh, do they have? They must. I know. I know. I've seen the Siyum Kaddish. Let me see.
Kaddish.
Siyum Kaddish. Hadron. There. So there's the Hadron, right? And it's printed at the back of things. And then there is the special Kaddish, right? And it starts with the normal Yitkadal v'Yitkadash Shemei Rabbah. Ba'alma dehi atid le'itchadeta
Right.
ulachaya maytaya v'lasaka yaton lachaya alma.
Yeah.
Very
So
different.
the rabbi, I think this is what he's talking about.
Yes.
That's applying the one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. It's more intricate than the Dorobanan. Yeah. Thank you, Rabbi. So yeah, it's so it's a bit different, and yeah. So and they include Ve'ikar Meshiche here. Include Ve'ikar Meshiche. So there's two versions of this because there's even two versions of this. There's the Ashkenazi one, and then there's the Sephardic one. It's all good.
So this is what they don't say.
This is the one they don't say at a siyum. So
Right.
apparently Chabad doesn't say it. I only found that out recently that they don't. I personally v'yatzmach perkaneh ve'ikar meshichei, right? So I personally made a siyum of Rosh Hashanah at the Ohel, right? And so it was kind of weird because at the Ohel I'm making a siyum, saying a kaddish that Chabad doesn't normally say because that's who Jacob is. So they actually there's a yeshiva at the Ohel. There's a group always constantly studying at the Ohel.
Yeah.
So I made a siyum there when I visited. And all of this to explain what this great news is that the Alter Rebbe had heard that he's describing, right? That there was the Chilukat Hashas, right? And they finished Shas. Chabad still, most Chabad shuls every year they do a Chilukat Hashas, and they complete the entirety of Shas. So Chabad doesn't do Daf Yomi. A lot of communities do Daf Yomi, which every 7.5 years, the entire community, everybody in the community finishes the entirety of the Talmud. This was when I believe it was was it Shapira or Morgenstern who started Daf Yomi. I forget who exactly it was, but when he started, it was a lot more controversial than it is now because the question was, can all people learn? So Rabbi Meir Shapiro. So, but it's, I mean, the most recent completion of, I believe it was like the 14th or 15th completion of from Yeshivas Chachmei Lublin. The most recent completion, I believe, more than 200,000 people participated in the completion of the entirety of the Talmud through Daf Yomi. But Chalukat Hashas, it's the entirety of Shas through the community every year. Okay. Okay. So that's what he's talking about. Zo hashlamat kol hashas kulo berov ayarot uminyanim ma'anshe shlomenu. Anshe shlomenu anash is how Hasidim, not just Chabad Hasidim, all Hasidim, refer to, and I believe even the writings of the Baal Shem Tov refer to Anash, Anshe Shlomenu. So in Hasidic communities, so in Chabad, when you say Anash, you mean Chabad Hasidim. That's actually Chabad Hasidim, right? Which is a
Mhm.
much smaller number than people who are variously affiliated with Chabad. Most
Right.
people would not consider me, for example, to be Anash.
Hmm.
Um,
Maybe a barnash.
what?
Maybe a barnash.
Balnash.
Barnash.
A Barnash. Hopefully a Barnash. Yeah, maybe. That and like in Ger, when they say Anash, or in Vizhnitz, when they say Anash, they mean those people who are part of our Hasidic court,
Hmm.
right? Hoda'a al ha'avar uvakasha al ha'atid, right? So I am grateful for what has happened, but I have a request for the future. Ko yiten lecho yosif Hashem la'ametz libam begiburim midei shana b'shana begibura shel Torah, right? So this is very flowery language to say, please continue doing this. Do this every year,
Hmm.
right? Um, Rabbi Mullet says Barnash should be a candy bar. Yeah,
Yeah.
uh, sounds good. Um,
Yeah, like a power bar. I can see that.
yeah,
Barnash. Yeah.
Barnash. There you go. Ulahodia livnei adam gavurata shel Torah shebal peh v'kocha oz, and make known to mankind the might of the oral Torah and its power, which is great. I mean, again, this is just very flowery language to say the same thing over again. Peresh Shlomo Hamelech Alav Hashalom Chogra Be'oz Motneha. Now he starts actually giving a little drasha, right, into the what we say in Eshet Chayil, right? Chogra Ba'oz Motneha, right?
Mhm.
So Eshet Chayil is a acrostic poem at the end of Proverbs, chapter 31. And the eighth verse of it's usually translated as woman of valor. And the eighth verse starts with echet, and it says chogra ba'oz motneha. Yeah, her loins are girded with strength. She wears a belt that makes her strong, right?
Mhm.
So with strength, what does that mean? So he's going to explain motnaim, right? Loins or legs, right? הם בחינת דבר המעמיד כל הגוף עם הראש הניצב ועומד עליהם, right? So now we're going to start talking about the analogy of this the human being, right? You have your head, you have your body, and then you have your loins, you have your legs, which hold that up, right?
Yeah.
So when we say motnayim, when we refer to the hips or the legs or the loins, right, we're talking about that which keeps the head and the body positioned, right?
Kind of reminds me of
Yeah,
the joke, sort of a joke that says like that the in the family the man is the
yeah,
head of the family, but the woman is the neck.
right. Yes.
Hmm.
So there is that aspect to it.
And it tells the head where to look.
Yeah.
And it holds it up. Yeah.
והם המוליכים ומביאים אותו למחוז חפצו, right? And they're that which allow it to walk and get around, right? That's what the legs do. They let you get around. Your hands can only reach so far, whereas your legs can take you far, right?
Hmm.
וכמו שהוא בגשמיות הגוף, right? And these analogies the Torah gives from actual physical materiality have a spiritual connotation to them. כך הוא בבחינת רוחניות הנפש האלוקית, right? So similarly, when we talk about the divine soul, it similarly has this concept of motnaim, right? That which allows our body spiritually to move, right, and keeps it upright, right? Ha'emunah ha'amitit b'Hashem echad ein sof baruch hu, right? And that is the belief in one God. That he's identifying here as the legs of our spiritual legs. The ihu mamala kol almin v'sovev kol almin, to know that he is that which transcends the world and that which permeates the world. Both that which permeates the world and that which transcends the world. The late atar panui mine, and there is no place which is in any way devoid of him. Lamala ad ein ketz, lamata ad ein tachlit, right? As far high as you can go, or as low as you can get. וכן לארבע סיטרין בבחינת אין סוף ממש. And similarly in the four directions, right? In every way, everything is permeated with godliness. וכן בבחינת שנה ונפש כנודע. The same applies to the dimensions of year and soul, as is known. I don't know who it's known to. Creation embraces the three dimensions known as world, year, and soul, as is explained in Sefer Yetzirah.
We didn't get there yet.
I did not. So apparently Sefer Yetzirah 3:3 explains all of this for those who know. World alludes to space, year refers to time, and soul denotes life. Just as God is one and infinite within the realm of space, so is he one and infinite within the realm of time and life. Hine, emuna zo nikret b'shem bechinat motnayim davar hama'amid umekayem et harosh. So he's telling us, and I don't know what his source is, but he's telling us that when we refer to this word motnaim, right, loins in the Torah, right, it is referring to that basic belief in the oneness of God, which allows the rest of what we are to be held high, and the head to be where it needs to be.
Right. It's like having the basic axioms of whatever belief value system you have that allow you to look at the world.
Yeah. hu hasechel hamitbonen uma'amik da'at begedulat ein sof baruch hu bebechinat olam shana nefesh. Right? So the head is that intellectual part, right? Which allows us to try to understand and contemplate and concentrate on God, right? Within those dimensions, world, year, and soul, all of which have a geder, have a boundary, right? Uvrov chasto v'niflotav imanu, right? And his great loving kindness and his wonders that he has done for us. Lihyot am karovo uladovko bo mamash, right? To be the people who are near to him and to cleave to him truly. Kenoda mimamar yafa sha'a achat beteshuva u'masim tovim ba'olam hazeh mikol chaye olam haba. And you guys probably Pirkei Avot, right? Where it says, greater is one moment of repentance and good deeds in this world, right, then all of the world to come. And similarly, it says one greater is one moment of the world to come than the entirety of this world,
Yeah.
right? And it's a difficult thing to understand. Go listen to Ben and Chezi explaining it at length, beautifully, I'm sure, during
Yeah,
the
we kept
tutorial.
basically, yeah, we basically solved the paradox there.
You solved it there? Great.
Hmm.
It's in chapter 417. Um, Shahu rak ziv v'ha'ara mibechina hanikret shchina. So the world to come, right, merely a gleam and reflection of that which is referred to as Shechina, right?
Hmm.
Hashochen, and we talked about this, right? Dira betachtonim, when we learned Bati Lagani, right? That there is an aspect and a way in which this dark and low world, right, is called Ganuni, is called God's bedchamber, God's garden, right? That where he, the essence of the Shekhinah was, and God was most fully revealed in this lowly, dark world, which is a pale. It's
Yeah.
like, how can you say such a thing? But this is something that Hasidut very much explains, that we are not Gnostics, that in fact the God of who created this world is the only God, and that in our descent into this world, our souls in fact experienced a great ascent, right? It is a beautiful thing that this descent happened, because it is a descent for the purpose of ascent,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
V'nivra b'yod achat mishmo yitbarach chulu, and the world to come was created by a single yud of the blessed name. And this is apparently explained in Menachot 29b.
Yeah, we talked about the youth being like the potential
Aha.
just by its, just by the way, but by its shape, even like how it's, yeah.
And apparently Isaiah 26:4, and in Epistle 5, he will be explaining this at more length. Beka Hashem Tzur Olamim, right? So things which are beyond my understanding, but since the Alter Rebbe said it, must be true.
Hmm.
Aval Teshuvah u'masim tovim mekarvim Israel avihem shebashamayim mamish, right? Because when you repent and you do good deeds, you become actually truly near to God, who is our Father in heaven. Lemahutov atzmuto kavyachol, as as if it were possible to his very being and essence. Mahut be'atzmut, atzmut mahut is how we refer to that essential nature of God, which is obviously so infinite that we can't even refer to it, but we are trying to refer to it, right?
Right.
Bebechinat ein sof mamish, in an infinite way, right? The most quoted part of Tanya, which the is quoted at length by the Rav in Halachic Man, explains that when we sit and we learn that in a particular situation, God God's will would be that if Reuven were to do this and Simon were to do that, that God's will, the halacha, according to the Torah, is that that there should be a psak din, there should be a halachic um, reality that the world should be in such a manner,
Hmm.
right? We are in fact even if such a thing never happens, we are in fact being completely overcome by the will of God Himself, because we are grasping a little bit of God by understanding that which God would prefer for it to be in that situation,
So
right?
it's like, so doing that, and is it a similar thing of saying like the imitating, right? Taking.
It's beyond imitation.
Okay.
You are embodying, you are representing God,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it is God's will that at this moment, Ben should be putting on tefillin and saying Shema Israel Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad,
Mm-hmm.
right? And at the moment that it is God's will, you actually, because of your love and awe of God, decide you want to do that.
The
And your
choice.
will
Yeah.
becomes completely unified with God's will, right? You are in a very real sense incarnating God's will in the world. Do you realize what that is? Can you comprehend what it means that Ben is doing that which God wants? You
Yeah.
get to do what God wants.
Mm-hmm.
Who how it is that a human being can receive such a gift is beyond all comprehension.
Yeah.
But it is. It's a Moradika thing.
Mm-hmm. It's a good schmuck.
It's geschmack. It is very geschmack. Yeah. Okay. למהותו ועצמותו כביכול בבחינת אין סוף ממש. וכמו שכתוב הודו על ארץ ושמיים וירם קרן לעמו. It says his hod, his radiance is upon the earth and heaven, and yarem, right? He raises keren la'amo. Uh, Karen, what exactly that word Karen, right? It can mean radiance, right? They translated it here glory, right?
Mm-hmm.
To his nation, right?
Yeah.
So, and apparently this gets explained other places as well, I guess.
Signifies.
Asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, right? As we say in the bracha, right? Who has sanctified us in his mitzvot and commanded us, right? Because the fact that he has commanded us, the fact that he has sanctified us through commanding us, right, is
Mm-hmm.
itself, it's the greatest of all things, right? And the chamayim hapanim, something that he has explained over and over again, right? As the reflection, right? Things which come from the heart enter the heart, and so God has given us commandments from that which is His will, and it enters us, and we are becoming close to God in ways that are absolutely, like, he's just hinting at certain concepts that in other places he has explained at length. Laholid mitvuna zo dichilur chimu sichliim o tib'im, to bring forth, right, from this true awe and love of God, either intellectual one or a natural one, an instinctual one, right? Lihiyot bechinat tza'ak libam el Hashem, so that it should become true, like it says, that their hearts cried out to God, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, bechinat rishpei esh v'shalhevet azah, or a second type of thing, right? That there should be this burning love for God in within you, right?
Right. So that's the difference between like we said, the intellectual, the or the emotional.
I think, I mean, he's talking in contrasts, and there's in many different contrasts bringing them together.
Yeah.
But I think the actually this here, bebechinat ratzo va'achar kach
Yeah.
bechinat shov, right? This back and forth, right? Which uh, dechilu rechimu, right? Love and awe. This, without being too graphic, an intimate back, back and forth, right?
Yeah.
Is part of that relationship, that closeness that you feel, right? Your soul more and more, like there has
I
to
heard
be
a good
heating and cooling,
yeah,
right?
I heard a good commentary on a recent parsha about well, I guess it's also this week, Chemot, like the Nadav and Avihu. And part of what some would consider what their possible transgression in terms of why they
Mm,
were consumed by the fire is exactly the fact that they loved so much, but they didn't retreat back. So they
mm.
ran towards God, but they didn't come back as Kohanim, as people to be with the people.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, honestly, this is a so one part, when finally I stopped listening to what Christians had to say about their own religion, and I looked in their Bible, and I saw Mark 12, where Yoshki says something that was like, oh, so they actually do have what the Torah teaches also contained in their Bible. They just don't decide not to read it,
mhm,
right? Where he is asked, what is the greatest commandment? And he says, the first one is Shema Israel Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad.
mhm,
And the second one is like it, right? V'ahavta l'orecha kamocha, right?
mhm,
And this idea that someone would ask you, what is the greatest commandment? And you would give those two answers. This isn't something, I mean, this is basic Judaism, right? That there's two parts of it. There's the ratzo v'shov. There's that vertical leap upwards towards godliness,
mhm,
right? And we talk about the two luchot, right? The first luchot of the Ten Commandments are between man and God, and the second one is between man and man. That you can talk about it in ruchniut and gashmiut. You can talk about it in, but there has to be, because we are people of the earth and we don't stretch all the way into the heavens, right? There has to be a constant back and forth, and a reaching up and back down, right? And this is something that is reiterated in Judaism
yeah,
in many different ways over and over again. And ultimately, I mean, when we talk about male and female, right? It's a very difficult thing for Christians to hear, but we in a Jewish context, a human being is not any individual human being. It's man and wife, right?
mhm,
Shulchan Aruch, Evan Ha'ezer 1:1, right? It says, Lo nikra Adam, Lo nikra Adam, that until a man is married, he's not considered a human being,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because that coming together of opposites, right? It's 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 essential to um, what what a human being is,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And so this, or when we talk about Lashem Yichud, right? We talk about for the sake of unification,
Mm-hmm.
right? We're always talking about opposites being brought together,
Yeah.
right? Or we talk about Mamalav Alman and Sovev Alman. So again, he is in many different ways talking about things which are in both of them holy, both of them necessary, both two of them are, and they need to be brought together, right? And yeah, if I remember correctly, now he's going to explain why he's going to go back to Chogra Be'oz Motneha, right? Is connected, her legs, right, are connected by a belt,
Mm-hmm.
right? Kind of getting a little bit ahead of what he's going to be talking about, but
Let's
did
go
I
through.
make anything clear, or was I just rambling?
No, I think we're kind of circling the main, like we said,
Yeah.
we're circling the main idea. So
Okay. Okay. Hopefully the rambling was good rambling. We'll see. Okay. Lihiot pachad Hashem belibo velivush levosh migidolato. Right. So on the one hand, you should have a fear of God, right, and to be abashed by His greatness, right, to have busha, to have humility and shame.
mm-hmm.
Behu bechinat small docha, right? And that is talking about the left pushes away, right? Kamosh katuv b'matan Torah v'yar ha'am v'yanu'u v'ya'amdu merachok, right? So when we have Har Sinai, right, the people were afraid and they stood and they trembled and they stood from afar, right? Behen bechinat hazruot v'haguf shemenefesh. And these faculties, love and fear, are the arms and the body of the soul, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, love and fear. So now we're gonna get back to loins.
Just a second.
Me. Yeah.
I need to grab my glasses.
Go ahead and grab your glasses. While he grabs his glasses, I will catch up on perhaps a snack bar. Yeah, snack bar might be a good one. Um, Barnosh as a snack bar.
Okay,
You got your glasses.
I got my glasses.
You can see now.
Yes, my eyes are getting tired.
Aha. Okay. So now we're going to get back to talking about loins. Mihu hanoten koach ba'oz lebechinat motnayim lahamid ulekayem harosh v'hazroot. Right. So we talked about the necessity of like your head and your body in their love and fear of God, right? But what is it that gives the strength to the legs which hold all of this up? Hu esek velimud halachot batorah sheba'al peh, right? So obviously studying Torah, the Shabbat, right? That is a beautiful and great thing.
Mm-hmm.
But what is that which undergirds it? That which allows it to be to stand in the correct way and walk? That is through learning the oral law, which is the halachot, which is how we should actually live our lives. Shehi bechinat gilui ratzon ha'elyon, because that is what reveals God's will most clearly, right? The actual mitzvah. Right now, this is what I should do. Tomorrow morning, I should wake up and I should put on tefillin and I should put on, right? That which I must do, the halacha, right? That is what gives the love and fear of God and
Mm-hmm. Right.
its capacity to walk.
Mm-hmm.
Shehi bechinat gilui ratzon ha'elyon. The oraita mechachmahi the nafkat, right? So the Torah, it comes from chachma, from wisdom. Aval mekorav shorsha hu lamala mala mi bechinat chachma, right? That even though we talk about the Torah coming from wisdom, and it does, the fact is that its very essence is from something that is even higher and beyond and above wisdom, which is God's design. V'hu hanikret b'shem ratzon ha'elyon baruch hu. And that's what is referred to as the divine will, right? Blessed be He. Uchamo shekatuv beketzina ratzon ta'atrena. As with a shield, you crown the righteous man with favor. This is from where is this written? In Psalm 5:13, right? So when we talk about ratzon, we talk about keter, right? God's will. We talk about it as a crown, right? Because just as a crown stands above your head and isn't part of you, right? But when we think of a king, the crown is actually that which represents him the most, right? Yeah. Similarly, will is the divine will is something that is above the partsuf, right? But it is actually that which is most important of the partsuf. Atara shehi al hamochen shabarosh, like a crown which is on top of the brain which is in the head, right? So he's using this whole symbolic language of the human body. Noda mima sheparshu al hapasuk eshet chayel ateret bala. So another part of Eshet Chayil is Ateret Ba'ala, right? She is the crown of her husband.
Right. So connecting the belt, the waist, the belt that holds the waist, that holds the body to the crown, like you said.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And that's ultimately, I mean, we say Keter hu malchut, right? The crown is right. The kingship, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why, to pull up this, right? So Keter and malchut akut tchilatan besofan, right? Got it?
I'm trying to.
It's not an easy thing.
Yeah.
V'chol hashoneh halachot b'chol yom, right? He's assured a place in the world to come, right? So some people are very careful every single day to learn at least 2 halachas to make sure, right, that they're doing that. V'zehu chogra ba'oz motneha, and this is what it means that her loins are girded with strength. Ein oz ela Torah. There is no strength which is other than Torah, right? So what were we talking about? He's people, right?
Mhm.
Why they should continue every year to do Chalukat Hashas, right?
Right.
To um, um, to
Show them why it's necessary for them to
why it's
go through the.
necessary for them to study the Talmud, right? He's saying Chogra ba'oz matneha, right? That the this that that oz, that learning of Torah, is that which gives strength to that which allows for everything else to keep on going,
Yeah.
right? Okay. שהיא נותנת כוח ועוז לבחינת מותניים החגורים ומלובשים בה, right? That it gives, the Torah gives strength to that, the um the bechina, the aspect of loins. L'chazek la'ametz zeroteha, right? To make, which then gives strength to the arms. Hen dechilur chimu sichliim otivim, right? Which is the
We called it the
love
wings
and
too.
fear, the emotions.
The wings also we call them that help you ascend up. I like that
Yeah.
image.
Kol chad lafum shiura delay, right? And when we talk about learning halacha, unlike the Torah, right? So when we talk about Torah shebechtav, when we talk about the Torah, there's a Torah reading, and everybody's supposed to follow the Torah reading, and everybody's supposed to read the same thing every week, right? The entire community, every week we have the same parsha,
Yeah.
but that's not true of Torah Sheba'al Peh, which is Kol Chad Lafum Shiura Delay. Each person according to that which they can have access to, right? Va'al hamadat v'kiyum b'chinat harosh shebenefesh hu hasechel hamitbonen chulu amar ta'ama ki tov sachra, right? So he's parenthetically explaining that when we talk about the head, right, which is that which can actually understand, right, that is the ninth verse. The next verse is it says, "Taste and you will see that her trade, that the goods she trades in, right,
For the
her
family.
Torah is tov, is
Yeah.
good, right? That ta'am, right, in Hebrew means taste. It also means a reason, right?
Mm.
So with your head, you can reason, right? You can understand, and that's tama kitov sakra, right?
Yep.
Umavur b'makom acher. That's explained in other places. Ach et uzman hachizuk ve'imutz hazroot v'harosh hi sha'at tefilat hashachar, right? But those things which more right, which are of the head and the body in the spiritual example we're giving, that is in the mornings, right? For shachrit. Shehi sha'at rahamim ve'et ratzon ha'elyon lamala, right? That is specifically a time of God's revealed favor, right? In
Mhm.
the days. At night, it's not so revealed. It's dark, right? Velazot ota evakesh mi mevakshe Hashem. So I am going to make a request. The Alter Rebbe makes a request from those who want to be closer to God. Yavinu veyaskilu yachtav, right? They should understand and contemplate. V'lihiot lezikaron bein einehem kol ma shekatavti alehem Eshtakad bechlal, that which I explained before, they should remember all of this. Ubifrat me'inyan kavanat hatefillah me'umka deliba, right? That they should be very careful um, in their praying from the depths of their heart. Kol yom yidrashun Hashem b'chol libam u'b'chol nafsham, right? So in the morning, you should be very careful on your prayers from the depths of your hearts, right? V'nafsham tishtafech, pech, pech, sorry, tishtapech, tishtapech. Kamayim nochach pnei Hashem, they should spill. It should be spilled like water. Their soul should be spilled like water before God. Kamamar Rabbeinu Zechron Laracha besifrei ad mitzui hanefesh, in the sifrei, which I don't know very well, to the extent of pressing out their soul. They okay. Va'ata hapam. And now, so last year, that's what he said. He asked them that they should pray very carefully to bring as much of their soul out into their prayers.
Somebody was telling me a story yesterday about, it's related, about a rabbi. I forgot his name, but he was 1800s, and he was a businessman too, and he had to hide some of his, he had to hide some of his rabbiness, his Jewishness, like when he was doing those dealings. Sometimes when he would pray in the morning too, he would pray very fast, like it would go through it. And he was saying that some people say that they need to pray fast, that's just the way they go, but this rabbi, he did it not because he had to. He did it the way he did it is, well, it says about him that he prayed fast, or fast. For some reason that word it's not okay. Anyway, he prayed quickly, and then he had to also quickly change his shirt because it was soaked with sweat from the amount of concentration that he had. So some people can afford, like great people. This rabbi, he prayed quickly but he was at the level where even when he would pray quickly, his concentration was so hard that he was soaking from just like
the Rebbe Maharash was known to pray so fervently that his nose would start bleeding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah it's very hard to think about it. I'm like, but yeah
there's a famous story that was it the Rebbe Maharash? Forget who it was. I think it may have been the Mittler Rebbe. I think it was the Mittler Rebbe, that he was the son of the Alter Rebbe.
Mm-hmm.
That he was, I think it was the Mittler Rebbe, that he was praying. I think it was the Mittler Rebbe whose nose would start bleeding. He was praying with such fervency that his nose started bleeding, and his father was worried about him. So the Alter Rebbe held on to his nose to keep him from bleeding, right?
Mm-hmm.
To stench the thing. And the Mittler Rebbe was so engrossed in his prayers that when he went to take the 3 steps back at the end of the Amidah, that's when he realized somebody was holding onto his nose. Because he hadn't noticed.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So especially Chabad Hasidim are known for not being as shockling and moving as other.
Right. So this story that somebody told me was
so I've never actually davened with Karlin Hasidim, but I've seen videos and I've sometimes davened with people who daven with Karlin. they are just kol atzmotai tamarna, right?
Mhm.
It's like they get so much exercise in that one Amida. But yeah, Chabad was more still. Yeah, yeah. The Amida. Okay, we should probably try to finish this sometime.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, va'ata hapam. But now, right? That's what I asked before, and now I'm going to ask Hineni Yosif Shenit Yadai Betosefet Beor. Right? I'm going to ask again with more explanation. Ubakasha kafula, and a twofold request. Shetucha uperusha lifnei kol anshe shlomim. Right? Extended and proposed to all of Anash. Hakrovim v'arachokim, whether they're near or far, lekayem alehem, that they should take this upon themselves. Shekol yemei hachol lo yerdu lifnei hateva haba'alei asakim she'ein lahem panai kol kach. Ooh, he's saying that during the week you should not have the leaders of the
Mhm.
congregational prayers be the people who have to work.
Catch a train. Yep.
Yeah. Um, Rak otam sheyesh lahem panai. Only those who have free time. O hamalamdim, either the people who teach Torah, o hasmuchim al shulchan avihem, or young men who
Hedge fund kids.
yeah, yeah, exactly, supported by their parents. שיכולים להעריך בתפילת השחר ערך שעה ומחצה לפחות כל ימות החול, right? People who can spend a full hour and a half with their shachrit. Halavai. Should I tell my favorite story? People can go and look up my favorite story about when the Alter Rebbe was walking with the Reb Baruch of Medishbush and the Berditcher. Mehem yihyeh hayored lifnei hateva. These are the people who should be shleach tzibur.
Mhm.
Al pi hagoral, and from them you can choose by either lot or al pi ritzui harov, or what most people want. Oftentimes there are people who have good voices, and so a lot of people like that these people go. V'hu yasof alav b'saviv lo kol hasmuchim al shulchan avihem. And this person should gather those who actually have the time to pray. Or melamdim shichlu la'arich kamohu, or those who are teachers who also have time. Bebal yeshune na vena. And this should not be changed. I ask, please and please. Na vena. אך בשבתות וימים טובים, שגם כל בעלי העסקים יש להם פנאי, ושעת הכושר להאריך בתפילתם בכוונת ליבם ונפשם להשם, right? But during the holidays, when people don't have to go off to work, then they can also be included in those who pray for the Amud.
Mhm.
Adarabba, and even more so, Alehem mutal biyeter set biyeter oz, kamosh katuv, b'shulchan aruch orach chaim, and their duty is so much more so to like is explained in Shulchan Aruch 292 of the Alter Rebbe, where he explains. Like it says in the Torah, Sheshet Yamim Ta'avod V'Yom Hashvi'i Shabbat LaHashem Elokecha. Right? 6 days you shall work. On the seventh it shall be to the Lord your God. Daika Kulo LaHashem. Specifically, it says, should be completely belong to God. Yom Hashvi'i. right?
Mm-hmm.
ולזאת גם הם ירדו לפני הטבע בשבת ויום טוב. And that's when they should be allowed to be leaders of the congregation. על פי הגורל או ברצוי רוב, כמו שכתבתי אשתקד, like I explained last year. וכגון דע, and in this manner צריך להודעי, and in this way you can make known שבדעתי אם ירצה השם לשלוח לכל המניינים מרגלים בסתר. So he said, I'm telling you, I am going to send spies, secret shoppers,
Mm-hmm.
each of these minyanim, these congregations, leyeda v'lohodia, right? So that I would know, and so it should be known. Kol mi she'afshar lo, v'chol mi sheyesh lo panai la'arich la'ayen betefila umit'atzel. So he will know, right? If anybody has the capacity, right, and the time to spend a good amount of time, an hour and a half at least, on Shachrit, and he doesn't do it, Yihye nidon berichuk makom. The Rebbe was going to let them know by pushing them away. Lihiot nitche b'shtei yedayim. With two hands, he was going to push them away. When next time he comes, he's gonna hear it from me. And that's part of having a Rebbe, is when you actually have a living Rebbe, sometimes you come and he says, "Hey, Ben, have you been praying like you're supposed to?"
No, holding you accountable.
Yeah. And maybe you say to him, "Yes, Rebbe, I have." And he gives you a patch, right? Rebbes were known to do that. A patch, yeah. Patch is a slap.
Mm-hmm.
So if you ever want to go to a synagogue where nobody talks during the tefillah, you can go to the minyan of the Ger Rebbe on Rosh Hashanah in Jerusalem, where thousands of Hasidim come, and not one person dares to speak the entire tefillah of Rosh Hashanah. Do you know why? One day somebody was talking, and the Rebbe walked up to him and slapped him.
Mm-hmm.
And can also get. But when the Rebbe himself walks up and slaps you, suddenly you stop talking during shul.
Yeah.
Mechlal lav. And from the negative, you may ata shomea hen. You can see the positive, right? That if you would get a patch, right? You can't ever give a patch if you wouldn't give a kush. You know what a kush is? It's a kiss.
It's a kiss.
So if you wouldn't kiss, you shouldn't give a patch. You shouldn't hit a person unless you would also kiss a person.
Mm-hmm.
Got it?
Got it.
Ulashomim yunam. Pleasant it will be for those who listen. V'tavo alehem birkat tov, and they shall have a bracha, the ein tov el Torah v'chulu, right? And that's how he ends that epistle to Chasidim. Yeah?
Strong.
Yeah. The Alter Rebbe could all of the Rebbeim could be very, very demanding.
Mm-hmm.
How long is this letter, and do you think we can get through it? It's not a very long letter. I think we might be able to get through it in half an hour.
Try.
We can try. I'll try not to constantly interrupt.
That's okay. It's part of the. It's part of the chevruta.
Yeah. Achar biato mi Peterburg.
You want me to go through it?
Yeah.
Okay. Katonti. So this is after he comes back from Petersburg.
Petersburg. Right. Hasidim would not call that man a saint.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I don't know the story, but I'll catch up on it. קטונתי מכל החסידים ומכל כולי. I have become small from all the favors and from all the truth. Pirush. So these were the words that were uttered by Jacob as an introduction to his plea to God to save him from Esau. Okay, so what does this mean? Pirush. Once Jacob allows us to read the rest. שבכל חסד וחסד שהקדוש ברוך הוא עושה לאדם, צריך להיות שפל רוח במאוד. That with every single favor that God bestows upon a man, he, the man, ought to become very humble. כי חסד רוח ימינه. For the supernal sphere of chesed is the right arm. וימינו תחבקני. And the scripture states, ימינו תחבקני. His right arm embraces me. שהיא בחינת קרבת אלוהים ממש ביתר שאת מלפנים. Which refers to the state of God actually bringing him close to himself, far more intensely than before. וכל הקרוב אל השם ביתר שאת, והגבה למעלה מעלה. And whoever is brought exceedingly close to God, he also is being raised aloft to greater heights. צריך להיות יותר שפל, צריך להיות יותר שפל רוח למטה מטה. That person ought to be more humble to the lowliest plane. כמו שכתוב, מרחוק השם נראה לי. As it is written, from afar has God appeared to me.
Right. So the greater God's kindness, the more you have to be careful you have to be careful in humility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's like the analogy kind of works. So it's like if you think of like the servant of a king, or like the advisor of the king. If the advisor is particularly, he's very close to the king, but if he's particularly arrogant, then the king might get jealous or suspicious, right? And we'll cut him off. I don't know.
I had never heard that analogy before, but okay.
וכנודע דכולי קמא דווקא כלא חשיב. And is known, all that are before him are esteemed as nothing.
Yeah, it says kameh daika.
Kameh davka.
Right? So specifically kameh. Everything that is before him is like nothing, right? He's explaining that's why you should understand that before God, you're as nothing. You should be humble when you're near God.
Right. ואם כן, כל שהוא קמא יותר, הוא יותר כלא ואין אפס. Hence, whoever is more לפני, before God, is that much more like nothing, not, and non-existent. וזוהי בחינת ימין שבקדושה וחסד לאברהם. This self-effacing response to divine favors is the level of the right side of holiness and chesed and of chesed unto Abraham. Amar anochi afar ve'efer, who said, I am dust and ashes. Vezohi gam ken midato shel Yaakov. This humility born of kindness is also the characteristic trait of Jacob. ובזאת התנצל על יראתו מפני עשיו, ולא די לו בהבטחתו, והנה אנוכי עמך וכולי. And therewith he justified himself for his fear of Esau, and did not regard the divine promise given to him before as being sufficient. And behold, I am with you, and I shall protect you wherever you go. מפני היות קטן יעקב במאוד מאוד בעיניו, מחמת ריבוי החסדים. This was so because Jacob regarded himself as utterly insignificant on account of the multitude of God's favors. Ki b'mekli chule. As he said, for only with my staff did I cross the Jordan, and now I have enough property for 2 camps. ואינו ראוי וכדאי כלל להינצל וכולי. And he considered himself as being utterly unfit and unworthy to be saved, and so on. I think the same is said about Abraham, where he tells, where
Sarah,
Sarah tells her to be like his sister, not because that doesn't he think that God will save her because she's even more righteous than him. So he's the commentary says that it's a reflection of how humble he is. He doesn't think he's worthy of being saved. So he's trying to do himself save himself. וכמאמר רבותינו זיכרונם לברכה, שמא יגרום החטא, as our sages of blessed memory expressed it, Jacob was apprehensive, lest sin would cause him not to be saved. שנדמה בעיניו שחטא, for it appeared to him that he had sinned. מה שאין כן, בזה לעומת זה, הוא ישמעאל, חסד דקליפה. It is different though with the unholy counterpart to the attribute of kindness that belongs to the holy side of the universe, i.e., it is different with Ishmael, who personifies the attribute of chesed that it belongs to the klipa. כל שהחסד גדול, הוא הולך וגדל בגובה ובגסות הרוח ורוחב ליבו. The more kindness shown to Ishmael and to his ilk, the more he grows in pride and arrogance and self-satisfaction.
Right. So Ishmael is the klipa of Chesed, just like Esav is the klipa of Gevurah.
Yeah. ולזאת באתי מן המודיעין מודעה רבה לכללות אנשי שלומנו. Accordingly, I am now making a weighty announcements to all the men of our Hasidic fraternity. על ריבוי החסדים אשר הגדיל השם לעשות עמנו. Regarding the multitude of favors, the great things that God has done with us. So this is a man that is living in Eastern Europe and probably doesn't have any much food, and his people don't have much food and don't have any possessions, nor can they allowed to have possessions or whatever else.
Yep. Yeah. These are people who lived in the Pale of Settlement. Yes, correct.
Yeah. Ask them to, so regarding the multitude of favors, the great things that God has done with us, לאחוז במידותיו של יעקב, as a result of all these favors, hold on to the attributes of Jacob. שאר עמו ושארית ישראל. For Jews are known as the remnant of his people and the remainder of Israel. שמשים עצמו כשיירים ומותרות ממש שאין בו שום צורך. Regarding himself truly as mere remnants, as something truly superfluous and dispensable. לבלתי רום לבבכם מאחיהם וכולי. Let the men of our fraternity not become haughty in relation to their brethren. And here
he's apparently talking about the mitnagdim.
Yeah. ולא להרחיב עליהם פה או לשרוק עליהם חס ושלום. Let them not jeer nor whistle derisively at them, heaven forfend. הס מלהזכיר באזהרה נוראה. A strict warning. Hold your peace, mention nothing. רק להשפיל רוחם וליבם במידת אמת ליעקב מפני כל אדם. Rather, the men of our Hasidic fraternity are to subdue their spirit and heart before every man according to the attribute of truth unto Jacob. בנמיכות רוח ומענה רך משיב חימה ורוח נחאה וכולי. With humility, with a soft answer that turns away anger, and with a restrained spirit. וכולי היי ואולי ייתן השם בלב אחיהם כמים הפנים וגומר. And through all this behavior, humility, perhaps God will put a conciliatory and loving response into the heart of their brethren. For as waters reflect one's face, so does the heart of one man reflect the heart of another.
Right. So he's saying, apparently, this is after he was released from prison. He's saying
Right.
this should not be an occasion for us to jeer or celebrate or say things in front of our unfortunate brothers who are not in the Hasidic, uh, how do you call it?
Fraternity.
Fraternity, yes, who have not yet learned enough Tanya. You
Mhm.
know, Daniel Shalom.
Mhm.
um, yeah, he's telling them don't be nice and don't.
Be nice, and hopefully that will uh, cause God to um,
Open their hearts.
open their hearts.
You know, that was a short letter.
Hmm. It's interesting to go through something that is this is different in terms of like the hearing the voice of the Alter Rebbe and him talking to his community.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And I mean, yeah, it's it's a very different type of writing.
From what
Have you
we've read,
do you have you read any of the Rabbi's letters?
here and there.
There is an excellent collection called "The Letter and the Spirit," and they made a second volume of it too. I'm not sure I read the second volume or not. I definitely read the first volume. I'm pretty sure. Um, but yeah, the Rebbe's letters. I mean, a lot of them are absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan.
I have an app.
Rebbe Responsa project.
Yeah,
I have it too.
it's good.
It it is. It is. It's kind of strange that there are letters there you can't find anywhere else.
Really
Uh,
interesting. Yeah, so sometimes I look through those and I think I remember going through encountering some letters, but I didn't go through the letter in the spirit. Like I didn't read that
it's definitely worth reading.
more intentionally.
It amazes me, like you know how critical I am, and I'm very very critical, and
Hmm.
how much the Rebbe put out, you
Yeah.
know, in terms of especially letters, but like everything, his edited speeches, his videos, his um, and what amazes me is this man who was born in 1902, I believe, in Russia.
Yeah.
Um, and from 1951 to 1990, well, until he passed away in 1994, but he was active until 1992 when he had his stroke. Um, he was Rebbe for 40 years,
Hmm.
a good 40 years, and he and people were paying attention to everything he said and wrote. And there's nothing in that entire corpus. And trust me, I tried to look and find, and there used to be a website which has closed down, but it was dedicated to like every bad thing about the Rebbe because
Hmm.
the guy who ran it was like a disaffected Lubavitcher who
Hmm.
like spent his entire life like looking for everything possibly bad you could possibly ever say about the Rebbe.
Hmm.
So it was a convenient place to look.
Yeah.
And the worst thing he had about the Rebbe was he had a video where a black man um, came for dollars, and when the Rebbe gave the man the dollar, he was talking to one of his secretaries, so he didn't pay full attention to the guy,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just gave
Yeah.
him the dollar without paying full attention.
Mm-hmm.
Like, see, the Rebbe's racist.
Yeah.
And I was like, if this is the worst thing you have on this man, like, and that always amazes me, especially like I listen to like his things he talked about topically at certain
Mm-hmm.
times, is like the Rebbe never. I am not aware that he ever said anything stupid.
Right. He engaged in like
Everything,
and everything. Yeah. So
yeah,
it
especially like
still didn't seem out of touch or out of its depth in anything that he spoke.
yeah, the scientific stuff. I mean, there's one letter he wrote to a family who had an autistic son,
Mm-hmm.
and this is a letter from like the 50s or 60s, and you would expect in 2024 to read that letter and be like, oh, like they didn't scientifically understand or
Yeah.
whatever. And like it is the sweetest, most heart, like it's really like a heart-rending letter,
Yeah.
right? The compassion and love and like, yeah, the Rebbe was something else.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully, we can get some more of those people, or even people that reach
Yeah,
the,
yeah.
the,
I
the
mean, I have to say, like, the reason I got so excited about the Yanuka and I do have, Chazi did me the favor of sending me two of his books. Um, I was hoping there would be something that he had written himself. It doesn't. Um, I he, the Yanuka hasn't been publishing things
Mm,
that I can tell.
yeah.
Um, these are things other people have been publishing for him. Um, but listening to his speeches, he reminded me of the Rebbe.
Hmm.
That was the amazing part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have the Yanuka. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If anybody knows about anybody else, please let us know.
Yeah. Please do let us know
We have a
if
running list of.
I I would love. I mean, Rabbi Breitowitz is has a special place in my heart.
Mhm.
Um, he's definitely absolutely. I mean, first time I met him, I was in Israel, and so at the yeshiva there was this kind of like open area where people would go and sit, and he um, he used to come and visit in Israel during the summers, and he was just sitting there, and people were just going up to him asking him questions and stuff, and it was just so nice of him just to be sitting there letting people come up and
Yeah.
ask him questions.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like a nice gesture.
And he's an incredibly sweet man. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Thank God for good people.
Mhm. For sure.
Anything else you want to talk about, or should we end the stream?
No, I think that's everything. It was good to get back
Yeah.
into the Tanya.
Yes. Next week, more of Igeret Hakodesh.
Mhm.